Okay, Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo. Thank you so much for being here. I've been having some troubles today. For some reason, my version of Photoshop just blew up and disappeared. And so I'm switching to GIMP because I'm tired of the strong arm of the macromedia, corporatocracy, and monopoly forcing me to pay fees for something I've used since the 80s. And sorry, don't have the money. So going to use GIMP. Excellent software. I've used it before on my Linux stations, and I highly recommend it. Okay, tirade over. Now, we're going to finish up this discussion on offerings for deceased ancestors, relatives. I hope by now, as a form of wrapping this up, I want to try to clarify my insights on this, because I know for many, what I'm saying will sound dissonant, harsh, unbelievable, whatever. I hope I've described it well enough. But first, I want to acknowledge that culturally, for thousands of years, as long as human beings have been able to think, even I think pre-verbal, we've witnessed the end of things as we know them. Remember, keep this in mind. As human beings, we are in a constant state of establishing distinctions, establishing thingness. It's our exposure. It's our hand slaps us in the face. Raindrops hit us in the head. Food has texture, smell, taste. All of these different consciousnesses, remember they're all, in Buddhism, these are all consciousnesses. Feeling, sight, oral, taste, these are all consciousnesses. You could think of it as ways of, I was going to say knowing, but it's really ways of experiencing. And I think it's important to remember that minutia of Buddhist thought, because if you understand that our attachment, our mechanisms of identifying and therefore identifying self, are constructions of innumerable amounts of information from our eye consciousness, our ear consciousness, our taste consciousness, our touch consciousness, then our experience of endings is so constantly reinstantiated in our minds that our human experience can't seem to exist without that. Understand that influences our understanding of time itself, right? So it's very, very challenging to start shifting the mind into understanding. See, when I say that life is a series of discrete moments, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, you can think that's fascinating. You're kind of open to that thought. It's hard to understand, but it still satiates your idea of a beginning and end, beginning and end, beginning and end, doesn't it? But truly, if you understand more intuitively, more deeply this concept, what you begin to understand, and this is what I was indicating with the term eternal or eternity, is this birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. It really isn't a beginning, nor is it an end. It's a transference of energy. Kind of, you could visualize it like if you know what a sine wave is, right? It's this, there's a median line on an oscilloscope, and the wave goes below it and above it, below it and above it, below it and above it. Now that may not be an excellent visual for you, because then you'll hit me with, well, if the above it is life, then there's a duration to death. Yeah, see, I don't want you to do that, so erase that. You could see. I'm trying to analyze the concept in Buddhism of nidana, or the precipitation of energies into manifested form and condition, tendencies and conditions. That's what all of our experience of life is: tendencies and conditions. Our tendencies are our what we call karma. It's our energy that's pushing us through time. It's our energy that is constantly vibrating like a frequency. And it is our kinetic energy, our energy in motive form. Follow? So, that quiescent energy I'm talking about is like the line in the oscilloscope. But if you could imagine shifting that sine wave all above the line, that would be a more accurate description of what I'm talking about. So the birth is the activity in the motive force going up, and then it comes down until it reaches, because it decays, it comes down and it curves again as it reaches the line of quiescence. And then through that quiescence, it transfers this like hill of energy into the next moment that crests into a realization and then decays into quiescence and then rises. And this motion is the kinetic energy moving through our perception of time. Okay? So if you can begin to visualize that, understand that, there is no beginning or end to this line, to this sine wave, this imaginary sine wave that I've just created. Okay? So this is our concept in Buddhism of eternal or eternity, because the energy involved here that is a slightly different frequency than the others is our particular karmic energy, made of our particular karmic makeup, our tendencies and conditions as they go through time. And that sine wave itself follows an arc of very tiny vibration till it gets bigger and bigger, and then that whole curve of that wave starts to also decay. And so if you back the camera up, like a film term here, and your resolution faded to where those little moment-to-moment bumps became less readable as individual things, but just represented this soft curve, right, that arises and falls. It also has a curvature of instantiation and decay. And that's what we experience as a lifetime. But when it decays, it disassembles, right? That nidana, that original amalgam, is a very erratic, filled with associations, attractions, repulsions, all sorts of energies bouncing around until they amount to a desire, if you will, to instantiate. In other words, the curiosity happening in this energy is such that it wants to know itself. And that becomes the beginning of establishing eye consciousness, ear consciousness, taste consciousness, feeling, touch consciousness. They arise out of this amalgam, and because that consciousness arises, it wants to instantiate what is seeing, what is hearing, what is touching. And if there has to be something to observe or instantiate or cause an awareness of what it is to touch, then there has to be something to touch. So it too is involved with a much broader energetic manifestation. You see, we're connected before we even become consciously consciousnesses, manifestations of experience. It's a huge thing, and I have a whole series of videos on the origins of life, the 3,000 realms, the Nidan, all that. So look for that playlist, the 3,000 realms. Why do I say all of this? Because of our fascination with endings and beginnings. We must open our minds, evolve our understanding of life, the process of life, to really involve our thinking, to understand that to think of this wave of birth and death is not a beginning and ending. It's just a wave in the massive, incalculable, unfathomable fields of energy that are instantiation or birth. And death being another term other than ending. Death being just the end of a cycle. Cycle, there I go again. But our words fail us. This is why the teachings of Buddhism, the Dharma, the experience of Buddha-ness, can only be understood amongst Buddhas, because words just fall short. In the moment I said cycle, your samsaric mind went, see, it's a cycle. There's a beginning and an ending. It's a cycle, wrong word. There's an arising and a falling away. Period. There's no beginning to that cycle. There's no ending to that cycle. It's simply not a cycle. It's simply an instantiation that takes some form, experiences that form, and then it's gone. Other instantiations and other fallings away, this process is always ongoing. The only reason it's hard to understand that is our deep attachment and desire to be this one individual self. We're just an experience of this massive process called life. We're just this one. We're like a blade of grass. We may resemble lots of other blades of grass, but the blade of grass that we are instantiates and sooner or later will decay, and it will never be again. It's done its exploration. It's done its experience. There will be other blades of grass, but they are not this blade of grass, this experience of this individual one instantiation. Think of it this way. That makes this life that you're experiencing so incredibly special, so precious. Don't waste it. I keep running into this alarm thing with my pills. Sorry for the interruption. It's been a heck of a morning. A lot of interruptions. So anyway, I hope we could just talk and talk and talk about this, because each one of you is going to listen to me and hear this idea through your own filters and your own experience, and you're going to interpolate it in a way that you think works for you. Ultimately, until you take this to Gohanzen, chant about it, focus your chanting to the point that you forget what you're chanting about and just be in the rhythm of Daimoku. And then as you exit your fusion with your mandala of Gohanzen, and you return to your daily life, that penetrating Buddha wisdom will touch on the words that you've heard, and more importantly, the thoughts that you've had on the words that you've heard, and you will begin to understand through your own experience and your own words. And there may require several iterations of this. And in conversation, person to person, one of you, several of you have asked, but one of you recently asked, since I'm so consistent about Buddhism being an individual practice, what are my thoughts on groups and communities and shodai, chanting with others? Yeah, I mean, you need to understand the definition of Sangha. The difference between a group, an organization, a community, whatever word you want to use, as a societal construct to assemble people, and the word Sangha is very, very critical to understand. So I'll tell you that, and then we'll finish this Go Show, okay? A Sangha is Itai Doshin. It's many in body, but one in mind. In other words, there's a goal established for getting together. Whether it's you and me, you and someone who's interested in Buddhism, or somebody who I've known for many years who's practicing with me, or if it's a whole group. The reason, the impetus, the motivation, the very thought of getting together is to as one, chant to a mandala of Gohanzon in order to enable our enlightenment, to further it along, to study together, to chant and further along our goal of enlightenment, awakening. That is Sangha. That is what we're doing right now. You're not watching this video to learn brilliant video techniques. If you are, I'm sorry, I'm not that brilliant. You're watching this video because you're curious at some level as to what you can do to expedite, to deepen, to understand your practice of Buddhism. And I'm here because it's helping me. Sometimes talking about things are the way that you can hear them back and deepen your own understanding. And I desperately want to help others to see the value in this practice, to expand, and if I can in some way, explore something that inspires you, that makes you want to practice further or research or study further. We are Sangha. That's very powerful and very useful. But we all bring our own ichinen, our own will to attain enlightenment with one another. This is why chanting with one another as Sangha is so powerful. But, big question here. Are you getting together because you want to spend more time with that girl or that guy? Are you fascinated about, maybe I can build relationships using this tool of Buddhism? You're already missing the point. That's not Sangha. That's samsaric desire. And if your goal is anything other than study and practice to evolve your attainment, then it's not Sangha. Our social makeup, our societies, our group thinking, our desire for companionship, almost everything we do in life is that social construct. And that's okay. We breed, we continue the species, more opportunity for enlightenment. That's great. But it's not Sangha. So you have to be very, very cautious here. If you put together a barbecue at your house, a bunch of people come over, and whether they're Buddhist or not, that's societal, right? That's great. It's not Sangha. If you get together to have a Thursday night organized meeting, then you have to make sure you chant about it and that meeting comes together for the express purpose of Gangyo, study, and chanting. When that meeting's over, and you make sure it's over, like when you go to court, okay, the meeting of this Sangha is over. Now we can mingle, have refreshments, get to know one another. That's appropriate. That's a social gathering, but it's no longer Sangha. Do you see the difference? You have to be careful here, and this is why so many organizations today, whether they are sanctioned Buddhist organizations or lay organizations or whatever verbiage you want to put around, Buddhist chumming. God, that could have a lot of other meanings, sorry. The goal is everything. And I don't mean to say that some of you are doing it wrong. I'm not chiding anybody here. What I'm wanting to make absolutely clear in your mind is what you are doing. There's a lot of room for confusion here, and this is how people get manipulated, and this is how erroneous, misleading understandings, teachings, sects, groups, this is how they start. This is part of the samsaric desire we have for other. It's inevitable. I am cautioning you to know the difference. You're going to have other meetings. Of course you are. You're human. Just understand the difference. If you're having that barbecue and a guy or a girl comes up to you and says, I heard you're a Buddhist. And you say, yeah, I'm a Buddhist. You want a hot dog? It doesn't have to mean shakabuku. It can be a really interesting conversation with somebody about what it is to be a Buddhist and why you practice. Until that other person says to you, could you show it to me? I'd like to know more about it. Now, unless you feel the urgency to drag that person into another room where your Butsudan is and chant together, which you very well may do, understand that you're walking a fine line here. Because you don't know the mind of the other person. You don't know if that's a manipulation they're using to get to know you better. That may be a tool for you to shoju, to show them, to help them join the practice with you. But know that that is what you're doing. Don't overestimate that you've suddenly shakabuku'd somebody and saved them. Don't do that to yourself or them. The better thing to do would be, wow, that's great. I would love to chant with you sometime. But tonight I'm the host, or I'm part of this party, and we're getting together here. Let's share phone numbers and let's schedule a time when it's convenient for both of us to get together, and we'll go see my Butsudan and my mandala, and we can chant together for a while and get to know one another in Buddhism. And you can tell me, how it's going for you, what you need to know, and I can point you in the right direction to get information. And then if you like it, we can schedule another time. And I can get Bob and Joan over there to come over, and we'll all chant together. And that's a whole different... Oh, wait a minute. Am I scaring you? Let me back off. Let me just schedule that one appointment for you and I to chant together. And that's why we will get together. Do you see the difference? The goal is established. The Sangha is established. Do you see? I'm not saying the other opportunities aren't useful. They may be the only way that you know how to connect and bring people into the practice. But don't overestimate what you're doing. That is not Sangha. That is you ingratiating somebody to join you. But you don't know their motives. You don't know how they're reading your motives. because the premise of you getting together was not Buddhism. It was barbecue. Social structures are very hard to pierce, and they're very individual. So don't mislead yourself. All right, enough on this. Where are we? Oh, we spent. All right, so let's finish this up. Nichiren continues. With all this in mind, I note that you have a grandson, Jibubo, who is a Buddhist monk. This monk does not uphold the precepts and is lacking in wisdom. He does not observe a single one of the 250 precepts or a single one of the 3,000 rules of conduct. In his lack of wisdom, he is in a class with oxen or horses, and because of his failure to observe the rules of conduct, he resembles a monkey. But he reveres Shakyamuni Buddha and puts his resolution in the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. Hence, he is like a snake that grips a jewel in its mouth, or a dragon that bears scarred relics on its head. A sacred relics. Sacred relics. A wisteria vine, by twining around a pine, may climb 1,000 fathoms into the air, and a crane, because it has its wings to rely upon, can travel 10,000 ri. It is not their own strength that allows them to do these things. This applies likewise in the case of the monk Jibubo. Though he himself is like a wisteria vine because he clings to the pine that is the Lotus Sutra, he is able to ascend the mountain of perfect enlightenment. Because he has the wings of a single vehicle to rely upon, he can soar into the sky of tranquil light. With wings such as these, he is a monk who can bring comfort to not only his parents and his grandfather and grandmother, but also all his relatives down to the 7th generation. So through time. Imperceptible in this attached samsaric existence is the point, not the exact number 7. How fortunate a woman you are to possess this fine jewel of a grandson. The Dragon King's daughter offered her jewel and thereby obtained Buddhahood. You have given your grandson to be a votary of the Lotus Sutra, and this will lead you to enlightenment. I am so pressed by various matters that I cannot write in detail just now. I will write again another time. With my deep respect, Nichiren. So, that last paragraph said a lot, didn't it? And this is a theme that he was referring to earlier, but he said it in a different way. And you right now, listening to me, may feel a bit confused by that last paragraph. He seemed to start out by saying that her grandson wasn't doing it right. He wasn't following the precepts. He wasn't following the 3,000 rules and all the formalities. What he's appealing to there is the grandmother's understanding of lesser teachings, which he has already discussed at length. Hinayana, Provisional Mahayana, all of these strictures and rules and everything, that if you're not doing those, you're like a snake with, colorful. Why the colorful sacred things on the snake's head? Because it's running around ignorant, but supporting the Lotus Sutra. See, he did make a point of saying the grandson is revering, resolute about the Lotus Sutra. He may not seem to be the most educated, the most knowledgeable, and the most adhering to all of these mudras, mantras, and rules, and blah, 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 blah. But he is single-mindedly focused on MyoHoRenGeKyo. So though you, grandmother, may see this grandson as not altogether together, he is, to my knowledge, someone who is an avid and determined, resolute practitioner of MyoHoRenGeKyo. And in this latter day, that is what matters most. Is it doesn't matter where you come from, what your level of education, how much money you have, how smart you are. What matters is that this method, this tool, MyoHoRenGeKyo, doesn't care about any of that. It is the most direct way for anyone, whatever their status, to invoke, to actually invoke, not find, not get there, but to reveal something that's already there, to invoke it. The Buddha mind, the Buddha wisdom, the Buddha-ness, the Dharma. You can live in it instantly by chanting MyoHoRenGeKyo. Now, moment to moment, right? Birth-that. Instantly establish your Buddha-ness and instantly lose it. That's why we chant repeatedly. We keep, hello, 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 Buddha, Buddha, gone, Buddha, gone, Buddha, gone. This is why we chant. We chant to condition our mind to keep Buddha-ness awake, awaken it. We invoke it, we try to hang on to it, and we're in samsara. We invoke it, you see the cycle? That's the cycle I'm talking about. Not circular, but like a frequency through time, right? If you take a circle and you break it, you have a sine wave, don't you? A circle, if you draw it out through time, becomes a frequency. This is how life works. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. Without beginning or end. You're just one thread amongst innumerable. So, pretty profound letter, really. And you could take it upon yourself to take any one of those little areas of this letter and deep dive into them, and it'll explain Buddhism. And this is the amazing thing about the Lotus Sutra, the MyoHoRenGeKyo, is that by digging into any aspect of MyoHoRenGeKyo, you see the entirety of Buddhism. All right. Enough blah, blah, blah. Well, not too long, this one. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it inspires some questions, some thoughts. Share them in the comments. Email me if you have something specific or personal that you don't want to discuss on an open forum. I want to be here for you as much as I'm able. So please give that to me. Because it really serves my practice too. Download the podcast, the Buddhahood podcast. Download it. Keep it. A year from now, you may, oh yeah, I have all those podcasts I've never listened to. Play it while you're in the wood shop or working on your car or driving or working out, whatever. Right? It's a useful tool. It's free. Help yourself to deepen your practice. That is my only goal here, to help you do that. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully no new software problems will happen and disappear off my computer. What a world we live in. In the meantime, stay healthy. Bye-bye.